Hi, I'm Josh Cadillac, and welcome to my podcast, Know Your Shit. I've been blessed to see great success, as well as seeing the bottom up close and personal in 2008. And if there's one lesson I've learned, is that if you want to have success and differentiate yourself from everyone else out there, you need to know your shit. As a successful real estate and crypto investor and an educator, it drives me insane that people do not immerse themselves in their craft. Everyone is so busy advertising and testing new sales techniques, they forget the most important thing, the product. Here I want to talk to the folks that got this right, the most successful people in the world in every industry. Bring them to you and find out what they learned in their business that made it great. When you're listening to my podcast, you will know for sure that the topics and experts we have on have one thing in common. They know their shit. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Know Your Shit podcast, where our knowledge and pride in what we do drives us to be excellent. My name is Josh Cadillac, and I'll be in the driver's seat for today's show as we strive to learn to stop doing deals and start closing customers for life. We have a great guest for you today, and his name is Brent Bowers. Brent, thanks for coming on, buddy.
Hey, Josh. Good morning. Thanks for having me, man.
Brent, would you go ahead and tell our folks here what it is that you do?
Yeah, I buy and sell vacant raw land. That's about as simple as I can make it, and it's as simple as it sounds. We don't have to overcomplicate it. I buy land, preferably at a discount, and sell it for a little more. And my preferred method is to seller finance it. Does it always happen that way? No, but we get what we look for. A lot more often, I should say, than what we're not looking for.
Well, that's cool. So let me ask you this. What got you started doing that?
Yeah, I was trying to get out of the military back in 2015, 16 timeframe. I was, preparing for my third combat deployment, preparing to be away from my family, my wife, and my newborn son again for another, year and a half or so. And I was like, man, I just got to figure out a better way, and I was wholesaling houses and haphazardly buying rentals that were just dumps and just costing me literally all my discretionary income to go back into the rental properties. I think that was the biggest myth ever was you'll get rich or you can live off your rentals. Yes, maybe one day in 30 years when they're paid for, but I surely was not living off of them. I had to work to buy rentals. And I heard a guy talking about land investing on a podcast just like this. And he seemed to be having success overnight, like doubling his money. And I was like, man, if I can get half the results that guy's getting in vacant raw land, I'm all for this. So I immediately took direct action, mailing people that were behind on their taxes a postcard. And I started doing land deals fairly quickly thereafter.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I'm one of those guys that's the multifamily guy. So I'm a big fan of that passive rental income. But tell us more about your business model, man. Tell us a little bit of how it works.
Yeah, so really the business model is I want to find land that's in demand. What do I mean by that? Like land that's actually selling. And once I figure out where the land's selling, I go in and price it out, figure out what it's worth and what it's selling for. And then I generate what's called LOLs or land offer letters. And I send it to landowners that own the land in this area. And I send it at prices that would be profitable to me if they sign it and send it back. And it's sheerly a numbers game, really, at the end of the day.
Sure.
Some will, some won't, so what? But some will accept that offer. And when I get that thing back signed, I'm like, man, I've got a smoking hot deal on my hands. Let's figure out if the numbers are really accurate on it and start doing that due diligence and research and then buy that land or flip it or sign my contract. There's so many ways to sell it once you have a good deal in your hand.
So basically you're functioning almost like a wholesaler, but for land. In the sense that, you're putting in a lot of offers at a price that that there's a profit margin. It's basically almost like an arbitrage play.
Yeah, you can call it wholesaling land. That's right. I'm getting it at discounts and selling it for retail. It's no different than me buying a whole entire case of Coca-Colas and putting it in a machine and selling them for $3 a piece. But one thing I add, you said that arbitrage, I love that word. Positive arbitrage is sometimes these sellers will sell me land on seller financing and I will turn around and sell it on seller financing as well. or I'll buy it for cash and I'll sell it for seller financing, or you name it. I'll buy it with someone else's cash, like a private lender's money, and
Sure.
sell finances. So that's where the positive arbitrage gives me that passive income. And what's so amazing, I own a bunch of doors. I own apartment complexes. I have an office building, houses and rentals and Airbnbs. Nothing ever breaks on my land, ever. I've never had to send a contractor one time.
Yeah, no, I get it. There's no toilets to break. I mean, positives and negatives in all business models. And land is always, I've always stayed away from land because the lack of the depreciation. I've always been a big fan of the depreciation that I get. But I'm listening to you, and there's obviously positive sides to it. I can't tell you that it's been a business I've taken a deep dive into. It's just never piqued my interest. But then again, I've never taken the dive into it that you have. And so, I'm curious, where did all the success come from for you?
Where did all the success come from? Is that
Yeah,
what you're?
yeah,
Just taking action and being fine with failure, because my immediate needs were met. That the military was paying me enough to cover food and housing, and I was telling my acquisition manager that yesterday. I was like, hey man, hey Sam, I hate to bother you on Sunday. God bless, happy Sunday. He has risen. And I generally don't work on Sunday, but when I've got an idea, like I need to take
yeah.
action on it immediately. I never, like I heard Tony Robbins say one time, never leave the scene of a goal without taking action. So I text Sam and I said, hey man, let's change the game. Our immediate income requirements are met. Sam is my acquisition manager. He's a super smart kid, really young. He's doing well and his investments as well. But I was like, listen, our basic needs are met. Why don't we just spend our time fishing for whales rather than minnows? Minnows will eat for, a couple of days. A whale will eat for a lifetime. Let's go after the $1 million land deals. Let's, we can keep doing the smaller ones because that feeds us and it feeds us
Sure.
very well. And I'm not telling anybody to stop doing what they're doing, but why don't we just take it to the next level? Because, I started off with my first land deal was $285. I sold it for $5,000 to a realtor. And I just kept building on that and building on that and building on that. And we've gotten multiple parcels of land for free that we sold for a couple $1,000s. Now, if you look at that, like I can own, the most I can make is a couple $1,000s on that. Why not go for the bigger value targets or the bigger target value lands and, spend the same amount of time, but make 10, 20, 30 more times on your money.
Right. That'd be interesting. I just as an agent, I wonder if the ability to get in and out is going to be as quick, just because the price point would be higher. But that's a really interesting thing. I mean, I know that the due diligence on the bigger pieces of land tend to be longer. So on the acquisition side, be interesting. I mean, I'm thinking along with you, man, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
So
and I'm sure there's a fine line too, where it's like there's that teeter-totter method where it's like, okay, maybe it's only to the $500,000 mark,
yeah,
but also it's like
point of diminishing returns. Yeah.
there you go, diminishing returns. Thank you, Josh. That's the word I was looking for.
Oh, my father used to love that line to me all the time. Hey, we can make the car go 2 miles per hour more faster, but it's going to cost an extra $100,000. Okay, let's not do that.
There you go. There
Yeah,
you
yeah.
go. Wow. To learn about that as a young child, like, that's
Oh,
amazing. You had a good father.
all right. So here is my dad's story to kind of sum up my childhood. I remember building him something made out of the big Legos. Not the
Yeah.
little Lego, but the medium. I don't know. They have the giant ones, but like the medium sized blocks that were, like. And so I build this thing to him, this airplane with like break off little whatevers, and he'd get it. And I mean, I'd be a little kid. I'd be like 5, 6 years old, maybe not even. And I go to him, I bring it to him, and he takes it, and he doesn't like just look at, oh wow, what a great job. He starts to shake it, and like if anything falls off, he'd hand it back to me with the different pieces, and he'd say faulty construction.
Oh.
Oh yeah, no, child abuse today, right? Child
No
abuse.
pat on the back for you, Josh.
Heck no. So I go back, I reinforce it, I fix it, bring it back. And if it held up, then okay, good job. But like there was always this qualitative standard that you don't turn in garbage. And I appreciate, and I, like on the other side of that, I respect. I'm like, wait a second, your father didn't hit you with faulty construction? No, like that was just a me thing. And
Yeah.
but I think that's a worthwhile thing. That was my dad, man. Like it was always an opportunity to learn, and it was a big believer in that. But let me ask you this, man: what do you like best about doing what you're doing? Besides, no toilets to break at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I just like the simplicity of it. I love land. I like walking land. I like looking at lands. I love owning land, and just the sheer fact of, just it only improves. It only
Yeah.
improves as far as, value over time. The trees get bigger. I don't know. It's just clean. I
Yeah.
don't like going into nasty. I don't like looking at my rentals that I own. And yes, depreciation and cost segregation are beautiful things. The government gives us, though, thank God, they give us that benefit to
Yep.
provide housing. But there's a reason, because the freaking place falls apart. It's like an apple. The second it hits the ground, something's going to eat it, or it starts to rot. So that's the same thing with buildings. And it's just, I don't have that with land. There's that you can always farm it and build something on it and cultivate it. I just love that about it. It's just the simplicity, I guess, is I can narrow that down.
Yeah, no, that is a very true statement. I mean, being a landlord and all the things that you have to do to take and hedge those things. Land banking has always been one of the alternatives to gold, or one of those other kind of hedges against the devaluation of money, and it's held up well. And it has the benefit of gold. Gold doesn't have a whole heck of a lot of usability, other than if you want to make some jewelry for yourself. Whereas dirt, oh, there's always a demand for dirt. What do you think makes you good at this thing, Brent?
I guess just reps, number of reps. I wasn't good at it. And I would say I'm still practicing. Like I'm let me just humble myself. I'm still practicing this. I started practicing this early 2016. Really started practicing real estate early 2000, or in 2007, April 2007. Probably bad timing, right? Then, I've had a lot of bad timings in the market. Like I bought my third Airbnb for cash on a lake in Florida, February 2019, and then March 2019 happened, like just, I guess what makes me good at it is, like, I know that this is going to be a patient man's game. And in
Yeah,
30 years, Josh, you could screw me on a deal right now. Like, you could sell me an apartment complex for, I don't know, full market value, over full market value, and it could just be a pure heck hole. But I know in 30 years, that thing's going to appreciate. It's
yeah, it's
also
going to look
going
like
to,
a good deal.
yeah, it's going to be a great deal in 30 years. The tenants will pay down the mortgage.
Yeah,
I'll get the benefit, the 27 and a half years of depreciation, and the rapid depreciation, all these benefits. I really can't go wrong other than the short-term aggravation. And this too shall pass. Like,
sure.
everything passes. We bought a 19-plex, and we're still renovating that thing. Guess when we
Yep.
bought it? 2018. Terrible time. Like, we were so stupid. Like, we put in foundation repairs before we had an architect,
Oh,
developed the renovations. Like, I didn't know that. Like, I'm not a builder, obviously. I'm a land guy.
yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense, man. I mean, the big thing with real estate, the big thing to always steer away from with real estate that everybody has to be aware of, is real estate's one nagging negative, which is lack of liquidity. It is so easy to become real estate rich and cash poor as a real estate investor if you're not very disciplined. And I say that as if I get this right all the time. I have many, many times been real estate rich and cash poor as other operating businesses take cash flow. And that as a real estate investor, what do you want to do when you have any money? I want to buy some more real estate.
Exactly. But
And the
have you ever
problem is to
met
make sure to keep that nest egg. Yeah.
you ever met that 70-year-old real estate investor that's been doing it for like 45 years? He
Hmm.
now has that cash thing taken care of.
Yeah.
And his friends are still working, but he just, points at this and that, and, well, here's, I own this and I own
Here's
that.
that. Yeah. That's mine. That block over there, I don't own that block. Everything else around there, I own. I mean, like those guys. Yeah, yeah. No, that's that block. That's the one I don't own. I own all the blocks. Yeah, I love those guys. So let me ask you this, Brent. Let's talk about the market for a second. What do you see as the opportunity in the market today? What's got you scared? What's got you excited?
I just see a lot of opportunity, I mean, there's still a huge amount of shortage of housing. We've got
Sure.
the inflation going like nuts. That's got me excited, also scared at the same time. It's got me, like hyper vigilant. You go down routes in Afghanistan in the military. You're not sitting there scrolling through Facebook on your phone. You're watching for who's going to kill you.
Yep.
So, you know, it's kind of that, like, that's kind of what I'm doing right now in this real estate business. It's like, am I going to get killed tomorrow, or am I going to make a fortune and look like a brilliant genius? I think it's just almost like dollar cost averaging. Like
Yep.
you know, here's the thing, like, and this is my opinion. Some people will completely disagree with me. It's like those people that say, I'm just waiting for the market. Well, you're not a true investor. Well, maybe you are, but you're a gambler. You're a speculator. I'm in
Mhm.
the arena every day, dollar cost averaging. I'm
Yeah.
going to buy today's prices, and I'm going to get I'm going to get a discount on today's prices. Tomorrow, I have no clue. Like, only God knows what tomorrow is going to happen.
Absolutely. I mean, the only thing that I would add to that is, you know, the educated investor can always do the one thing I always recommend to do, which is to go back and look at your history. I mean, real estate is one of the beautiful investments because it's got a very long history, and real estate tends to disproportionately appreciate when there is inflation. Real estate has always been seen as a great hedge against inflation. The inflation doesn't scare me. Actually, the thing that really not frightens me, but makes me apprehensive in the market right now is the student loan repayment starting again in October. I think that's a lot of liquidity to leave the market overnight. And so things like short-term rental properties, things like, retail, things like anything travel-related business, all of those theoretically will be disproportionately adversely harmed by that. And so for me, as a long-term rental guy, as a landlord guy, I sit here and say, well, gee, if short-term rentals get hurt enough, and we've already seen short-term rentals fall about 30% from 2021 or from 20 in the last year to date, they're down about 30% from where they were the year before. If we see that trend continue, I could see a lot of short-term rentals get repurposed as long-term rentals,
Yeah.
and that could soften my rental market. That would be a concern. That's one of those things that has me looking at the prices right now. And I mean, this is a very recent development. This is maybe the last 2 months. I'm looking at the prices and saying, I don't see that risk getting baked into the cake. And that makes me look at the prices and think, maybe I should be talking to Brent about getting some land here or something like that. Because, I don't know that the profile, I mean, like if it made sense before and now you've added another risk to the mix. Well, wait a second. If you add in a risk to the mix and you didn't reduce the price, you're asking me to take on more risk at the same price.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not the best deal for me,
Yeah.
And
Well, I
so
mean,
that's one of the things I'm looking at.
it's just a lower barrier of entry. Like, we could do
Yeah.
a side by side comparison. You know, okay, I'm going to buy this house and I'm going to rent it out as it sits. And we can rent it out to maybe traveling nurses or for 1 year at a time. Or I'm going to buy this house. It's on a great area. It's on a lake. You can have mountain views. So all the attributes. And then I'm going to put $25,000 in furnishings in it and paintings and
Yeah.
all these things that are going to deteriorate over time. And then you have to you almost need a side by side comparison. I got the house next door, it's a long-term rental, and I got the house next door that's a short term. And then you look at that profit and loss over, the next 2 years. Give it a long enough runway.
Great.
Okay, there you go.
Great
You've done
number.
so 3 years profit and loss, and see which one is actually more profitable. But you also have to figure out your time value of money, or not your time value of money. What is your time worth? So how much time are you spending on this one?
Oh,
And you
yeah.
almost have to have two property managers where you just collect checks and look at the P&Ls.
That's absolutely correct. Brent, you're preaching to the choir. I literally wrote a class called Short versus Long-Term Rentals, the long and short of short versus long-term rentals. And it's literally first figure out your projected income for the two property types, right? I mean, your rental, your vacancy factor is not going to be the same long-term versus short-term. Long-term, we're still booking 5% for vacancy. Short-term, well, you have to go check AirDNA, but I mean, honestly, 40 to 60% vacancies are not unusual depending upon the Airbnb property. And so, you take that day rate, now you mark it down 50% as your starting number. You start taking out things that you have to pay short sales tax and all. And the only way to take and make the two things really alike is to figure property management for both so that you're turning it into a truly passive investment. You take and you do that projection, your furnishings, you talked about it, life cycle on furnishings for hotels, 3 years. That's why I do my projections in short-term rentals over a 3-year period, because that lets me take and cycle through that life cycle of furnishings. So all that, figure all that in. So here's the income here's the income for one, here's the income difference for the other one. Okay, cool. Now what's the risk and aggravation difference between the two? And now as an investor, I can sit there and say, oh, well, wait a second, I'm making an extra $4,000, but look at this risk profile. You know what? Or I say, yeah, $4,000. Yeah, let's do it. Whatever. Because look, that's not my decision. That's the investor's decision. As an investor, I make that decision for myself. For me, I've stayed away from the short-term rental properties because I never wanted to be in the hotel business. It's a little too cyclical.
Exactly. Yeah, we only have one left, one Airbnb left, and last week, and I have a manager. And the last week, the air conditioner went out. We had to redo the beach. We had to coordinate with the neighbor to get the ingress, egress, to get the tractor, the equipment through. And I was just like thinking to myself that this is just a couple. And the only reason why it's still an Airbnb is because we enjoy going to that property and using it. And I'm not quite ready to pay that payment myself. Yeah, I'm still letting other people pay it, but I'm getting close to like, okay, do we just have this as our vacation home or not? But with the land, if you do that side by side comparison on all three, I buy a piece of land today, at 50 cents on the dollar. I turn around and sell it to you, Josh, at 100 cents on the dollar, but I allow you to make payments. And how did I buy it? I use my mother-in-law's money or my private investor's money that has a HELOC on their house. They're paying, 8% on it. I give them a couple points over that so they can make the difference. And they're making money. I have none of my own money into the deal, and I'm net. Literally, I make profit immediately, $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 down, whatever my buyer pays down, and then I make the delta, the difference. So if my investor has me pay, I should say my lender has me pay $800 a month, so she's paid off in 5 years, and my payment is $1,200 a month. So we take the difference of that, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm only making $400 a month on that.
Whatever, it's 400 money that was never your money. Yeah.
None of my own money. I was profitable immediately. So I got 10,000 down. I got 400 a month. And when that lender's paid off in 5 years, this guy still got my buyer still has another 25 years to go. And that's where I make the massive bucks on it. I'm keeping that whole $1,200 a month. Now, will he pay me that long? More than likely not. It's
refi out.
The banks figured this out. There's a reason why they do 30-year mortgages. They're front-end loaded interest for 5 to 7 years, because they know people will either move or sell or buy something else in 5 to 7 years. It's the same thing with land. When the market goes down, they sell it. Crazy, right? Same thing happens in the stock market. When the market goes up, they sell it. Or they'll finally build that house or that building on it, and they'll get a bank loan, a construction loan, and the bank's not going to let little Brent keep collecting that payment. They want to basically engulf that land as a lien. So they pay me off. So I collected interest for roughly 4, 5, 7 years. It's just icing on the cake. And I got to take that money and go do something else with it. But it gets me that payment. And I'm just looking for the passive income so we can have lifestyle freedom. I didn't get into this business to get rich. I just wanted to get out of the military.
I hear you, dude. I'm tired of getting shot at. And I get that, man. I totally appreciate that that line of thinking.
And I'll tell you, like, it wasn't getting shot at. I didn't get shot at like a lot. I was in a combat zone for, I don't know, 16 months total, all combined, of my 8.5 years. But I was always gone away from home, training all over the world. And it's like, that was fun until like your marriage starts failing and you have
it's fun till it's not. Yeah.
There you go. It's fun until it's not.
Yeah. So what are the most important things you've learned in the process of doing what you do?
Just consistency. Don't get arrogant. Don't feed your ego. Don't try and flip 7 houses and build one and do your land business at the same time, just because, you want to have something to talk about with the house flippers. And, you're watching HGTV and you see guys like Pace Morby and Jamil Damji and Brent. It's like, just be happy with where you're at. It's like the thief of happiness is comparison. So just learn to enjoy what I'm doing and not being worried about everybody else.
That's it. Absolutely. The perfect is the enemy of the good situation. You know,
There you
just
go. I just heard that in Atomic Habits. I was listening to it on my run this morning.
I believe it was Voltaire, but I don't. It's been
You're right.
attributed.
You're right.
It's been
Yes.
attributed back before him too, theoretically, but he's famous for having said it, and it's a very good idea. It's a very good idea. You know, you need to take and look for what's good and figure out how to get what's good going. You know, how to get what's good and make it good and keep it good, and then comparing it to somebody who got it perfect. It's just, uh, hey, I just published a book. Well, is it a bestseller? Oh, well, is it on the New York Times? Like, just take a step back.
Yeah.
You did something big. So, what do you think makes you passionate about what you do, bud?
I just been enjoying helping other people do it. We met again. We met the income requirement a long time ago. You got to be careful about moving that goalpost consistently and going out and buying the bigger, more expensive house, the second vehicle, the third vehicle, the boat, all these things. But what really makes me happy is seeing other people win and have success. And it just like, the gentleman that was sharing on that podcast where I heard about it. Now I get on podcasts, I talk about it. I have a community, we call it the Land Sharks, where I've trained so many people just like me how to quit their jobs, how to become millionaires in real estate in a very short amount of time. And it's really fun doing that. Like I don't make as much money coaching people how to do this, but on the other hand, it's like, it's an incubator of deals as well that I wouldn't have gotten access to.
Love it, man. Love it. So, Brent, what would you say you're most proud of in business that you've accomplished?
I would say just kind of what I just mentioned there. I'll just reiterate. It's like I've created a lot of people. I would say so many millionaires by this point, at least 20 or 30 that I can count on my hand. Now, do they have everything else figured out? No, none of us do. We're always learning, but I've shown other people how to get started in real estate very quickly. So I would say I'm more proud of that.
Cool. All right. Well, a little bit more personal version of this. Pull the curtain back just a
All
little
right.
bit. Would you say you're most proud of in life that you've accomplished?
Life. Geez, I've got three happy, healthy, very amazing children. And me and my wife have accomplished that. We help a lot of people, and
Nice.
that makes me proud. And I can think of several people, we've helped in the past like week. Just I can see their faces, and just we wouldn't have had the opportunity to do that if it wasn't for this business, if it wasn't for the wealth that the good Lord put on our hands. Because it's not our money, really. It's not.
Yeah,
Um,
I get that. I agree. I agree entirely, man. That is a very good way to look at it. To take and use what you've been given to give back as best you can and make
yeah, the
this
good
world
steward,
better.
really. That's it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know.
no, we redeem this world one decision, one choice at a time, as best we can. Nothing. I don't know about you, but for me, that's always the stories that kill me. If I watch a movie, a major redemption story, yeah, I mean, between you, me, and the lamppost, and obviously everybody that's going to listen to this, but like I watch a movie like The Blind Side. Oh yeah, there's tears.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Yep.
can't do it. Just seeing people be generous and do something good. It's a good thing. So, um,
It's like you talking about tears. Like yesterday, we went to church. Our church, they're really good about the kids. I love it. They brought all the kids into the main chapel, and there was a young boy getting baptized yesterday. And he goes, I used to like his testimony was, I used to lie and cheat,
mm,
and until I became a Christian. And like just I don't know if it was the whole thing, but if maybe it was all the kids there, my kids seeing this young boy make this decision to publicly be baptized, like that's intense, like that's
sure,
huge. And like that's where like I started like having tears. Like I don't usually cry, but I
yeah,
was just like so moved with all of it going on. So I
sure.
hear the blind side. So I agree.
It makes you realize that there's just something so much bigger, and that's really, I think, what drives it home. You hear those stories of people whose lives are changed. They're forever different because of something good. The one that absolutely like the worst one ever. As far as movies that crushed me, was that movie Imagine, the story about the guy's father, the guy that wrote the song I Can Only Imagine, and how miserable his father was, and how it changed him. If you've never seen, oh, okay, I can give you a couple here, buddy. You want to
I
want
can
to?
only imagine. That's it.
The name of the movie is Imagine. It's a really, really good movie. And there's another one called Greater, another true story about a football player who winds up getting killed in a car accident just before he signs his professional contract.
Ouch.
But what an interesting life, and all the lives that were changed because of this guy. And really interesting, well done story. And it's his brother, his older brother, who's sitting there struggling with, why did God let this happen?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's called Greater. And then you said
great.
I can only imagine or
I believe
imagine.
the song is I Can Only Imagine, but the movie is called Imagine.
Imagine. Got it.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, here's one for you. The Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom. Okay, yeah. No, it's on the list to go see. I got to make it happen.
I was at Business Mastery and Tony Robbins Business Mastery in 20, I believe it was 2018 or 19.
Yeah, no,
So
he's one of the big guys with that. Is Tony
yeah,
Robbins.
four and a half years ago, I saw the trailer for that movie, and it took a long time to get that thing to come out. So we've been supporting those guys, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, I know. Actually, I watched an interview with Jordan Peterson and the guy that the actor and the guy that the movie is about. And he talked about how Tony Robbins wound up in there. It was a seminar Tony Robbins was doing. And he asked, like, if you had all the money in the world or something, what would you do? And one lady said, I would give a bunch of money to this. And he's like, who's that? She told him. A week later, he calls the guy up. Tim, I forget what the guy's name is. And he says, look, is this for real? And the guy said, look, we're getting ready to do one of these busts. Come down here and see it in person.
Yeah,
So Tony went. And since then, he has been just a huge, he's the
yeah,
single biggest donor to that cause.
yeah. We were that thing. I think we raised 250,000 in the crowd,
Hmm.
like just between little guys like us, and
Yeah.
Tony matched it. So we like almost 500K that day. And yeah, I saw the pictures of him on that raid. Tony kind of disguised himself. It was pretty neat. I'd love the opportunity, if anybody's listening, to be able to go on one of those raids and not just be a supporter, but also physically support. That would be phenomenal.
Yeah. No, it's interesting stuff. So let me ask you this. What one piece of advice would you give our listeners? If you could say anything to them right now,
Yeah.
you've you've seen war, you've invested, you have a family, you have a lot going on that you've done in this life. You have a perspective of this. If you could give one person, final words of
Yeah.
wisdom that you could impart, what would it be, man?
Take action right now. And I'm just going to kind of repeat the book that I just mentioned, Atomic Habits. There's actions, and that gets you to where, like, okay, maybe your action is, I'm going to figure out how to get into land investing or multifamily. Well, what's an action step? Well, you need to start calling sellers or start calling brokers or mailing landowners or mailing apartment complex owners rather than evaluating and analyzing and educating. So action will get you a result, but listening to this podcast and analyzing and educating and listening to YouTube and like just trying to figure out the process and all the numbers, that doesn't get you anywhere. Like, you can't fail until you take the action. So just get out there and start taking the actual action steps to get you closer. Like, stop thinking about it. You're not promised tomorrow. And also, I'm going to go a little long on this. Like,
Go ahead.
stop thinking about what could happen if you make a mistake, but what will happen if you don't get out there and take that action step 5 years from now, 10 years from now.
Sure.
Like, are you willing to be in the same position you are right now? Maybe gained a few pounds, maybe in a little bit more debt, and you don't have that portfolio, then be happy with it. But if you're not willing to be that person, 5 or 10 years from now, then get your butt out there today and take the action step.
Absolutely, man. I love that. And it's interesting, actually. My next question was going to be, what one book or movie would you recommend? And I feel like we covered both of those already somehow magically. So that's beautiful. Let me ask you this, Brent. What's next for you? You're a busy guy. You got a lot going on. What's the next project, the next thing you're working on?
Yeah. The next project. Good question. You know, we are going after bigger, more expensive land deals. Again, I don't know how that looks yet, but we're
Yeah,
taking the action steps starting tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
love it.
It's already scheduled. So, like, what's an example of that? We scheduled, me and my acquisition manager scheduling a time that we're going to figure out what area and go for it. You know, you actually have to schedule it in. So that's just one of many things.
Love it. All right. A way pulled back. Should be a relatively simple, but very, very different than all the other questions. What is it you do to unwind?
Oh man, unwind. So
You've
lately,
heard of that. I've
it's
heard of
not
unwinding.
it's not a good habit, and but it's also just me and my wife's time. You know, we've gotten on an office kick. It's a stupid show. It's called The Office. But you know, I've literally been binge watching The Office lately. I think we watched 2 episodes last night. But that's been it lately, to unwind. And I don't know where this show's been my whole life, but it's just hilarious.
Awesome, man. All right. Last question, Brent. Where can people find you?
Yeah, super simple. You could text me 863-801-6959 or call me. You can go to thelandsharks.com, and I'm on all the social medias. Brent L, and L stands for land. Yes, Brent L Bowers.
Okay, good stuff. Well, Brent, thank you so much for your time and hanging out with us. Thanks for answering all the questions and surviving the gauntlet. And it was great having you on here, buddy.
Thanks, Josh. God bless.
You too.